And we're back.
Welcome back, everybody, to the only podcast on the internet that knows that on its 250th anniversary, America has devolved back into monarchy.
And we know that because we are doctors.
But not doctors.
I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armstrong.
And on this week's episode, we will be talking about all things U.S. international and UK related. Starting with the U.S. this week, we're going to be talking about birthright, citizenship, other Supreme Court decisions, and of course the Freedom versus America 250 campaigns.
And turning to the international arena, it's all World Cup all the time.
Woo!
The Sportscast. I'm sorry, we're not a sportscast.
We're a sports pod.
We're a sports pod. Apparently, we're a sports pod now. We're going to be talking about the World Cup. We'll be talking about some of the more surprising results that we've seen. And this is exciting. America is somewhat competent.
We're in it. And the United Kingdom will be discussing the only thing that matters, Nigel Farage and his continuing issues with money. He seems to have too much of it.
Give some to me, Chris.
We'd all like a bit. All that and more starting on Doctors, Not Doctors right now. Patrick.
Chris.
So it's the 5th of July, but yesterday it was the 4th of July.
That's true.
Woo!
Yeah.
Happy 4th of July to those who celebrate.
Exactly.
Much to be happy about this particular 4th of July. 250 years of the United States since 1776 when we, not my ancestors, but others who, fair enough, decided to go on their own, decided that the parliament here, the government here was not doing them well, and decided to take matters into their own hands, started a war. But also, they won, so I guess it worked out. And created what we now know as the United States of America.
And I think the United States learned a very valuable lesson from that, which is if you're going to start a war, try to win it. And I think that's a lesson that I think the current administration could have learned a bit better.
I think the lesson also is to have pretty good allies who are able to help you do the things that you can't do. Also, understand why you're having the war. And because it was so long ago, it wasn't like they had 100% popular support. Everybody knows the story of New York City and how New York was 100% loyalist, and how and the city, I believe, was completely occupied the entire time.
It was quite occupied. Yes, that is absolutely true. I don't know that it was 100%. Because after all, Hercules Mulligan did live in New York, and he was very
Hercules
famously
Mulligan, yeah,
exactly, very famously on the Patriot side,
on the U.S. side. So but it was what eventually was created was there was an ideal, and the story has been mixed and matched so many times, but the general idea is that you wanted a place where people could come and just be people. And not care about that your father was the Duke of X,
right? Or
so that you had a chance to advance without the necessity of blood. Your father was the king, or your father was this, and it was always your father. Who cares what your mother was?
And that's the thing. Like the I'm going to use the term, and it's not quite right. I'm going to use it anyway. The marketing for the American independence movement, right? This is what's set out, obviously, in the Declaration of Independence, and it is making a big swing. It is making a claim of universality, and obviously a claim that the country that ends up getting created does not, I think it's fair to say, does not immediately follow through on, right?
It also makes a claim that the country that wants to be created is not the country that it is now. Because there are a lot of references to things that they know they can't change, in subtle. Like there's subtle hints towards slavery. There's because how they're angry at the king for a foreign king making
that is true.
But it's also
inciting domestic insurrections is the phrase that they use. What they mean to say is, well, the British were saying to any slave who fights for Britain, you'll be free actually. And that seemed like a relatively popular appeal.
Britain and the United States had different opinions on slavery. So it's been 250 years, and as Patrick said at the beginning, we are closer to monarchy than ever. And that's why this week we're starting with the U.S. section, because for the first time ever, America's going to win and come first, and the world's going to be listening to the America decisions and our thoughts.
And obviously this is such a rarity. You know, it's good to see the underdog win.
I know.
Every once in a while,
it's
Chris.
so rare to see somebody discussing the United States of America on a podcast.
Yeah,
our culture.
So true.
Our politics.
You know, representation matters, Chris.
Representation does matter. But let's talk about the removal of representation, or the attempt to remove that representation, with this first bit here. For weeks, we have actually, at least a year, we've been talking about the Trump's first executive order to remove birthright citizenship from people who were born here by parents who were not under the jurisdiction of the United States of America.
Right.
I haven't been able to read all of it because I have a job.
Well, and also because it's what is it, 190 something pages?
196 pages,
yep,
I believe.
Yep.
194
and
pages.
The thing is, over 90 pages of that is just the opinion, the dissent written by Justice Clarence Thomas, and it is I've tried making my way through that a little bit. It's not good.
It's thick.
It's not
thick.
It's not well written, and it is hot garbage. But we'll talk about that in detail in a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I think we will talk for it in detail, but we'll give you the Cliff Notes version here. The Supreme Court narrowly decided that persons born in the United States, no matter who their parents are citizens because of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment, which was created after the Civil War, the Juneteenth amendments, the reason that there is the Juneteenth, that basically...
it's the reason for the season, Chris.
It's the reason for the season that expanded citizenship to everyone born in the United States, not just certain people born in the United States. It was upheld by, help me out here, Kavanaugh, Sotomayor.
Well, okay,
wait,
so
it was these.
We have, well, it's interesting that you bring this up, and specifically Kavanaugh, Chris.
Yes.
Because a lot of people have seen reporting that this was a 6-3 decision, a 6-3 loss for Donald Trump, and his claim to be able to revoke, birthright citizenship just on his own, just for funsies. And it is true that 6 of the 9 Supreme Court justices did say that Donald Trump does not have the power to do this through executive orders, right?
Correct.
Now, that does mean that fully 1/3 of the Supreme Court of the United States does not have the ability to read and comprehend at the level of a second grader.
I wouldn't go that they lack the ability to read. I would go that they are just compromised, and they believe that there is that the president can unilaterally decide what happens with the country, because
that's true. Maybe
believers
in pretending to be incredibly stupid.
The unitary executive theory.
I mean, that's no. It's not even their bullshit is not even based on the unitary.
Oh, I'm not saying it's based on it. I'm just saying that it's in that realm of that we have an all-powerful super president, which is effectively a king,
an elected dictator,
that only Congress can control, and if Congress can't control them, tough for everybody else, because that's just the way that the founders intended to create a country that was expressly opposed to monarchy.
Yeah.
But hey, we're assholes. Who knows?
But yeah, so okay, so to give you the basic rundown, we have a 6-3 split on the issue of whether or not Donald Trump can take away people's citizenship through an executive order. However, this was ultimately decided on a constitutional basis, right? So the real question wasn't, can Donald Trump just do this through an executive order? Does the president have the power to end birthright citizenship on his own? The real question was, does anybody have the power to end birthright citizenship? Is that a thing that is even possible to do? And 5-4, the Supreme Court ruled that no one has the power to do that. That's not a thing. And the reason why it's not a thing is that the 14th Amendment says very, very plainly, all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of their respective states and of the United States as a whole. Yeah. Now, I'm paraphrasing a little bit there. The claim that the extreme right has been making in America for the last several months now has been that actually that doesn't mean what it says it means. It doesn't mean all persons, right? Because when we get to that phrase, subject to the jurisdiction, they've decided that actually what that means is that you have to have been domiciled and have the right of domicile in the United States, and therefore, and also have no other loyalty to any other country and also have no other country that you could have loyalty to, and also that you, are specifically the child of a person who used to be a slave in the United States. This is basically the basis on which the three Supreme Court knuckleheads ruled that actually, the children of undocumented immigrants are not U.S. citizens, even if they're born inside of the United States. Now, you may be wondering, oh, okay, but like I've read the 14th Amendment, or I've had it read to me, and it doesn't say anything about domicile. It doesn't say anything about like loyalty. It doesn't say anything about that. It just says subject to the jurisdiction. And isn't that like a problem for this view? And gentle listener, you are absolutely right. Like, this is nonsense on stilts. This is just made up nonsense. So what the hell is it doing in a Supreme Court opinion? Well, it's an indication, I think, of just how thoroughly corrupted the Supreme Court has become. Fortunately, only one third of the Supreme Court decided that, and that means that Donald Trump can end birthright citizenship just on his own. Brett Kavanaugh, on the other hand, he's the interesting vote here, because he decided that the Supreme Court amendment doesn't say what it very clearly says. He provides no reason for thinking that it doesn't say what he says, other than to say, and you're going to love this, Chris, that the Constitution is a living document, you see, and it has to be updated to deal with situations that the founders could never have thought of when they wrote the Constitution or the amendments that follow. So because, they could never have foreseen illegal immigration in the 1860s, therefore that means that they cannot have thought that the children of illegal immigrants could have been included in the 14th Amendment when they wrote the phrase all persons.
Wow.
And that is, as you might also imagine, hot nonsense, because there was no such thing as undocumented immigration in the United States in the 1860s, because there wasn't a system of documentation in the first place. Everyone was unauthorized. But there was a lot of immigration, and we really needed it on account of we just fought a civil war and kind of needed people to grow the food because all the men were in the army.
Indeed. And so it's important for us to remember that there are two different rulings here.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is a 6-3 ruling about the executive order, and the second one is about the constitutional portion of the question.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Patrick has been talking about and putting meat on that bone.
Thank you.
But one of the things we're going to be focusing on the constitutional section. Obviously, we've been against this executive order from the very beginning, specifically because of the use of the word jurisdiction. And as you've heard from right-wing sources before, they said, "Oh, anyone illegal is not under the jurisdiction of the United States," which then begs the question: how are they illegal?
Yeah.
And if you read pages 1, 2, and 3 of the ruling, you'll see all of the definitions of jurisdictions and how people are under the jurisdiction of the country when they enter the country.
Yeah.
To argue against that is to argue against the law.
Yeah.
It's completely insane.
The very concept of law. It's so perverse. So for those of you who are interested to know, like, what would it mean to not be under the jurisdiction? It would mean people like diplomats. Diplomats have diplomatic immunity. They cannot be arrested for crimes that they commit. Instead, what you do is you say to their country, like, hey, these guys are dicks. They are not welcome here. They are what's called persona non grata, and then you expel them. But you can't arrest them. You can't try them. You can't do anything about that. If you're in the United Kingdom, you already know about this because of the, you remember that case with the diplomat's wife?
The one who hit
Sekulis, I believe.
Yeah, she hit the kid on the bike. Yeah.
Exactly. And despite, having driven in a way that I think many people would recognize as being, legally very actionable, if not criminal, she could not be pursued in British courts because of her diplomatic immunity. So
that's page 3, by the way, of the ruling. If you have any questions about what we're talking about,
yeah. And there's another phrase that gets brought up, and it's I think misunderstood. There's an example is given of Indians not taxed, and people sort of see that to say, oh, well, they didn't see Native Americans as people. That's not what's going on here. I am not about to argue that 1860s white America was not fantastically and brutally racist towards Native Americans, because they absolutely were. But the legal meaning of that phrase is basically this: Native Americans were not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States because they were subject to the jurisdictions of their tribes, which were separate and sovereign legal entities, right?
Yeah.
If you were taxed, it's because you are living in the United States, in the territories that are recognized as such, and you are paying taxes to the government, you have recognized their sovereignty, basically. So you are under their jurisdiction. So there's a very limited and very small set of people that are identified in the and this is Wong Kim Ark, I believe the
This
1910s.
is on page 4.
Yeah. So what's kind of amazing here is that there's 100 years of constitutional ruling on this very issue. We have extensive records of what it was that the people who passed this amendment were talking about. We have the text of the amendment itself, which is incredibly clear, and still you have 4 out of 9 members of the Supreme Court willing to say, but I found a guy who 50 years later said something different. And therefore, that is new scholarship that overturns everything. It means everyone's been wrong the whole time.
Yeah, I found some guy from the Heritage Foundation who got their degree from Liberty University, and they've written a memo.
Yeah,
and therefore jurisdiction now means I like the president.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it's
Humpty Dumptyism, Chris. When they use a word, it means exactly what they want it to mean, and no more and no less. Yeah. So it's it is not generally speaking how you want to do law, I would say.
No, I'd agree, and I think we can spend a lot of time on it, but I think the last thing we should talk about on this is the implication, if you will, the implications of what this means, because this is birthright citizenship for now. This is an incredibly, I mean, it's good that enough people agree that the Constitution says that birthright citizenship is a real thing. Therefore, you cannot undo it by fiat.
Yeah.
The problem is that, in fact, Stephen Miller was so angry about this.
Oh yeah,
he's been losing his mind over this, and this is showing you where they're going to go with this concept. He's saying, oh, what if some country parked a hospital ship, within the Americas, like territorial waters, with 100 pregnant women, and they all gave birth? Would they all be American citizens? Yeah, yes, but who's doing that?
Yeah.
What if he's like he came very close.
What if pregnant ninjas, Chris, sneak inside of our borders and they have pregnant ninja babies?
That's something else you need to be afraid of. I'm just trying to find one of the posts here. Oh God, I'm gonna have to find it later. But basically, he's been going nuts. Basically, he's coming very close to saying mongrel countries and nations shouldn't be allowed in our country, and because there's no way for them to fight past this. And there's so much popular movement in America to keep birthright citizenship, but this is how you start the mass denaturalization program. It's how you start the mass immigration with an E program to get people out of the country. It's how fascism really starts. And Patrick and I do disagree on the severity of the authoritarian bent of the current government and the direction of the country. But in reality, the beginning of that fight is when you start kicking people out of your country en masse on completely spurious claims.
Yeah,
every fascist country in the world has done that in modern history.
Yeah.
They come up with some bullshit law and say, oh, you're no longer really German, or you're no longer really Italian, or you no longer really have the right to be here because we can easily change our constitution. And they try to do the same thing in America. And even Kavanaugh agreed that you can't do it by executive order. And just enough Supreme Court justices agreed that it's in the Constitution, with 4 of them, including one, Clarence Thomas, decided that no, it's not.
Yeah,
it's not in the Constitution. You can do whatever you want because it's only for Black people.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. That's the amazing thing, is that Clarence Thomas's argument, literally, he wrote this down, 90 pages of this ponderous, waffling argument to fundamentally say that even though the language is everybody, what they really meant was just the children of slaves, and only because they had nowhere else to go, and also because they had fought in the Civil War. On the side
so it's a gift.
So
it's basically a gift for choosing the right side.
Exactly.
Had nothing to do with human rights because you weren't people. And Clarence Thomas is apparently okay with that.
Clarence Thomas has always been arguing specifically for that, Chris, though.
This is true.
This is the thing. He's, people often express sort of surprise at the political career of, Clarence Thomas. But he is I mean, he's someone who's basically sort of always been extremely conservative, and also deeply suspicious of, any kind of universalistic claims of human rights and what have you. So, and if you want a proper dissection of Thomas's argument, read Ketanji Brown Jackson's concurrence. It is not that long. It is well worth reading. The woman can write, and she is absolutely, as far as I've seen, one of the sharpest minds on the Supreme Court. And her discussion of the history of how that amendment was passed and what people were saying at the time is just incredibly instructive. Just to give you an idea, in the Senate, one of the people putting forward the amendment was asked, but wouldn't this mean that the children of Chinese people, could be born in the United States and then they would be American citizens? And the senator putting forward the amendment was like, yes, that is exactly what that would mean. And they asked, but what about gypsies? To use the term they used at the time to describe the Roma and Sinti people. And the senator was like, yes, that's what we're doing here. Did I stutter? Although it probably didn't say, did I stutter? I like to think he did.
Yeah, and also in her concurrence, she made a very important note here that, quote, freed blacks did not advocate for a unique set of rules that only catered to their situation, nor did they seek to advance their own position relative to or at the expense and exclusion of other marginalized groups. Instead, those whose gatherings helped galvanize to push for equality understood that diverse origin does not disprove a common nature, nor does it disprove a united destiny.
Exactly.
So, I mean, what she's done here is, she has dismantled any argument that this is a very specific and focused amendment only for one group of people. Because if that was the case, then every Italian born after 1865 or 1864, 1865, or whenever the amendments were passed, they're not American citizens.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why.
And therefore their children would not have been American citizens. And
which means that they are currently not.
Exactly.
So, like, every American who was born after this isn't an American citizen, because theoretically birthright citizenship would only apply to the descendants of freed slaves.
Yeah, unless you specifically naturalized. Then
but how? Yeah. But how could you naturalize? I mean, you're letting in the evils, the dirty Swedes.
Well, that's okay, because the next stop on this little fascist bus tour, Chris, is going to be them saying that the president has the right to remove anybody's citizenship who naturalized if the president decides that they shouldn't have done that. So don't you worry, they've got a plan for that, Chris. I'd like to finish up basically just by putting forward the following argument, just because this has been bugging me and I need to say it.
Okay.
The conservatives on the Supreme Court have argued that they are originalists. They have argued that the way that they make their decisions has nothing to do with ideology. It has nothing to do with partisanship. It has nothing to do with left versus right. It is purely about identifying what it is that the founders and the writers of the constitutional amendments intended when they created the Constitution and the amendments, right? That's how they interpret everything. That's purely what this is all about. And the way that they do this is through history, to look and see what it was that they said at the time, what it is that they wrote in the Constitution and the amendments, and what those words meant when they wrote them, right? And if you don't like the results, well, that's just, you're arguing with the founders, nothing to do with me.
Can't change history.
Exactly. Now, this case, Trump v. Barber, proves that was bullshit the whole time. And I will tell you why.
Okay. Because
if you're going on the basis of what does the constitutional amendment actually say, well, it says all persons born under the jurisdiction are citizens. And it's full stop. It's quite simple. And if you're going by, okay, well, what did those words mean at the time? Well, they meant what the words mean now. The English language has not changed that much.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're going with what did they say at the time? Well, Ketanji Brown Jackson has got just a ton of receipts. Oh, my God. Chapter and verse, right? So if you're going on the basis of anything any of these fuckers have ever said that they are basing their opinions on, then this should have been a 9-0 result.
Unanimous.
Exactly. And the fact that only 2 of the 6 conservatives on the court were willing to do that in this case tells you everything you need to know about who these people are. And I would argue what it shows is that they are not judges. They are not engaged in the process of law. They are, and have always been, America's guardian council.
Yeah.
They are unelected dictators who want the power to change the law to make America what they want it to be.
Form it in their own view and light.
Exactly.
We have a few more things to cover,
Hmm.
so why don't we? Unfortunately, have to speed through some of these.
I know.
We did spend a lot of time on birthright citizenship, but we've been waiting for a long time on it.
And to be fair, it was the big story, I would say.
Yeah. But there's two more Supreme Court decisions that came
Mhm.
down. Why don't you take us through the two of those real quick?
All right.
And then we will talk about the crazy 4th of July.
Sounds good. So let's start off by talking about Trump v. Slaughter. So this is the case regarding a member of the Federal Trade Commission, that's Slaughter, who basically she was fired by Trump for just not being Trumpy enough, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's a problem because the FTC was created by an act of Congress. And when it was created by an act of Congress, that act explicitly stated that members of the FTC could only be fired for cause, right?
Yeah,
The whole point is it creates an independent agency that is established through Congress, and the president at the time signed it. So the executive has, agreed that these are the terms. This is what's happening, right? And the idea is that way you couldn't just have a president coming in and swapping everybody else out to reward their political lackeys. Basically, this was part of the move away from the spoils system that the U.S. had up until, a little bit after the assassination of James Garfield. He was very famously killed by a guy who thought he was going to get some of them spoils and that didn't, and decided, well, I guess it's time to shoot the president. He was Charles Guiteau. He was a bit of a nut.
Yeah.
But they made a really good HBO,
which I've started watching.
Series. Yeah, Death by Lightning.
Yeah, I just watched the first episode.
So good, man.
Yeah,
so I think
you'll definitely watch other episodes.
All right. But yeah, so anyway, that's what the law was, and that's what the Constitution said, and everything was fine and dandy until Trump decided, nah. And so he fires Slaughter. Now,
that's Rebecca Slaughter, by the way.
Thank you very much. So Slaughter then sues, and what she asked for is basically a restraining order against the president, saying, well, you can't fire me. You're trying to, and this is going to work its way through the courts. But while it's working its way through the courts, I should not be fired because we haven't established you even have the power to do that, sir. And Trump's argument is, nah. Yeah. So it goes all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court decides, unlike the district and the appeals court below them, actually, nuh-uh is an incredibly powerful legal argument.
Yes.
And we are going to say that, yes, actually, the president must have the power to fire anybody that they want. Because the president is the head of a unitary executive, and anything that does an executive function is therefore controlled by the president, and therefore Congress overstepped its authority when it passed a law saying that, you can only get fired for cause. And this is really important. And it's so important, Chris, that also there was another case about Trump tried to do the same thing at the Federal Reserve, and the courts were like, oh, no, you can't just fire anyone at the Federal Reserve.
That's right.
Reasons.
Can't mess with the money.
Yeah, can't mess with
we've
the
established
money.
We've established his president and this rule, and it's clearly being followed time and time again. You
Mm-hmm.
can't mess with the money.
Exactly.
But you can mess with everything else. Or at least you can't mess with stuff that's obviously written down and old. And so what this means is that they're trying to go back to the spoil system.
Yeah.
So every time a new president comes in, which obviously they don't expect a new president to come in, they're allowed to just, clean house across the entirety of the government to make sure that your particular agenda gets through.
Yeah.
Therefore, there is no oversight, which a lot of these agencies are designed to create oversight.
Well, yeah, there's no stability. There's no expertise. There is no science. There is only what the people in power want. And if you want to know what that kind of thing looks like in practice, may I encourage you to read up a little bit on the history of Trofim Lysenko in the Soviet Union, because there's an example of a guy who, was like, science? Nah, man, I got ideology. And millions of people starved to death. So it's fun.
Yeah. Okay. So you pick that up at any shop, I suppose. So we wanted to do the last one here, which is about the trans people in sports.
Yes, that's right. So this is West Virginia, the PPJ. And this was basically having to do with whether or not the states have the power to prevent trans children from playing school sports according to their identified gender, right?
Yeah.
Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, why the hell not? States are sovereign. They can do what they want, and it might be a bad idea, but, surely they have that power. The argument here is that, well, there is such a thing as Title IX, right?
Right.
So, and Title IX basically is one of the federal laws that says if you are taking money from the federal government and you're an educational institution, then you have to not discriminate on the basis of sex. You cannot discriminate on the basis of gender. You can't be like, oh, well, girls aren't allowed to have money to play football. Football is for boys, because that would be a bit horseshit, right?
Just a bit shit, yeah.
Yeah. So the argument here is that if you're a trans person and you're being told, no, you cannot play, this particular sport because you're the wrong gender, right? Instead, you have to play according to your gender. You're not expressing your gender identity the way we think you should. That these are just, this is an unacceptable sort of demand for the state to make, and this is an unacceptable restriction on the rights of individuals. The opinion was written by Judge Kavanaugh, who is big into sports and is a coach for his girls. One
of the sports teams.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Plays sports ball.
Exactly. He's into sports ball, and he coaches girls, and so he's coming at this with a very fair and very, very reasonable take. And that reasonable take is, while he has all sorts of, respect and admiration for trans kids who want to play sports, and sports are really important, and, they're, a necessary part of being in the world and all that kind of thing. Nonetheless, the states do have the right to say that trans kids basically just can't play them, because it's just so important that you maintain fair competition, that's such an incredibly overwhelming thing. And if you allow trans girls, for example, to play on a girls' team, they would just be so physically dominant and so absolutely able to, just win all the time, that it would destroy any semblance of fairness, which is a bit weird because in this particular case, the trans kid in question had never undergone male puberty, had in fact had hormone replacements that basically stimulated female puberty. So she was not taller or stronger or faster or anything. She just wanted to play the game and try it out and got a spot on the team. So it's really interesting because this is yet another example of the Supreme Court making a decision and basing its opinion on phantom evidence, Chris.
Yeah.
Like evidence that does not exist, was never introduced to court, and in fact flies in the face of the actually introduced evidence.
So last week, if you remember, we discussed that the Supreme Court's job isn't to retry the case.
Yeah.
It is to look at how the case was
tried.
Exactly. And if there was a mismanagement of the law or procedure,
precisely,
that's what their job is. Their job isn't to say, "Hey, I don't like the outcome of this case, so we're just going to rule in a different way to make sure that the case, works." So that's not the point of the appeal system in America, anywhere actually.
That's exactly
in
right.
a democracy.
Yeah. So it's just another indication, basically, of the Supreme Court being absolutely willing to bend the rules in order to get the outcome that they like, regardless of how the law works, regardless of history, regardless of fact, regardless of basic logic,
of observable reality.
Yeah. And so while I am happy that the Supreme Court had the right decision when it came to Trump v. Barbara, no one should take this as an indication that the Supreme Court is working well or as intended.
Well, it's been suborned, and I think that I think that unless it's so blatantly obvious and so popular, they're going to try and mess with it. And there's not much that the conservatives won't do. But if they were to say that birthright citizenship doesn't exist anymore, the can of worms that would have opened up, as we just discussed, would have been it would have been monumental. Whereas here, once again, you're attacking a small portion of society, and in the circle of politics, they're very far into that third ring of people that you've heard about, but what are you going to do about it?
Right.
So let's finish this off, because we're going to spend not too much time on the next couple sections on this, the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. And I think Patrick wants to open it up with a quote.
I do actually. I would just like to, and I beg your indulgence.
He's been talking about this for a while, and and I mean, let's just hear what the quote is.
Thank you very much. So, I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. Now that's Percy Bysshe Shelley giving a direct eyewitness account of the Great American State Fair that has just happened in Washington, D.C. It's been going great.
The Great American State Fair is the result of Freedom 250. Freedom 250. Now, you might think that's America 250, but it's not. Freedom 250 is an organization created by the White House in, I guess, the early days of the Trump administration, a 2024 version, because they wanted to turn the 250th anniversary of the United States into a spectacle for Trump, basically a massive Trump rally. So what is currently occurring on the mall, which has already had its issues with the reflecting tool, and I believe somebody was arrested or has been charged, an Olympian swimmer, for touching some of the lining of the
can't touch the lining, Chris.
Can't touch the lining that is floating on
that's
in
the
water.
Constitution.
It could be if you ask Clarence Thomas.
Yeah.
But the basically it was supposed to be a big state fair, and there are people who do these state fairs all the time. There's state fairs in every state, and they're just they're fun. You got rides, you got dogs, corn dogs, and regular dogs. You have merry-go-rounds and Ferris wheels. You got kids doing dances in the street.
Yeah, fried Mars bars.
Fried Mars bars.
Yeah, man.
Texas has a great one with big Tex. But this is supposed to be the one to end all, and it's supposed to be the big thing that brought the country together.
Yeah.
And then Trump got a hold of it and just like, no, instead I think I'm going to make it a private endeavor so people can pay me and pay my friends.
Yeah.
And it basically has a stall from every state. It's a lot. Like I think 7 states didn't even turn up.
Oh,
and so it's
quite a few states were like, absolutely not.
Yeah, we're not going to do this. They just basically had some chairs, and you're supposed to get a stamp from every state. Some states, however, were like there were a lot of pavilions funded by military contractors and SpaceX and Truth Social.
Yeah,
and I think the thing about this whole experience is that there were 2 organizations that were created, as I said before. There was America 250 and Freedom 250.
Yeah, they sound very similar, Chris.
They do sound very similar.
Is that an accident?
It could be an accident, but it's very helpful for the president because the National Resources Committee, the Democrats in the National Resources Committee, started an investigation into this organization, Freedom 250. Now, why would they do that? Because the management of the America 250 project was going to be done on National Parks land, which is underneath the oversight
of the Natural Resources
Committee of the House of Representatives, and I'm sure there's a comparable one in the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
So the Democrats have done a report that's 55 pages long, and I won't give you everything, but basically what they're saying is that America 250 was created 10 years ago in 2016 to create a bipartisan, fun group of activities that people could come and just enjoy the fact that America has made it to 250 years, which is no small feat.
Right.
But when Trump came in, he basically, his administration went to the America 250 people and said, hey, how can we make this more about Trump? And they said, we're not going to do that.
Yep.
This has been funded by Congress and everybody, it's not supposed to be about one person. Like, but how can we have more Trump rallies? And they're like, there'll be no Trump rallies. But how can we personally fund Trump's friends? They're like, we're not going to do any of this stuff. So the White House, and this is a direct quote,
all right,
when America 250 would not yield, the White House created a replacement, Freedom 250 LLC, a shadow organization capable of infiltrating the celebrations and injecting America's 250th with Trump's extreme partisan agenda.
Brilliant.
And the most important quote or the most important part of this about this question is that when Freedom 250 would start contacting people and saying, hey, do you want to be involved with this 250th anniversary celebration?
Right.
People thought they may have been dealing with America 250, but then somehow they may have gotten the bank details of Freedom 250.
Oh.
So when they shipped the money, when they sent the money via wire, they said, oh, it's going to America 250, but in reality, it's going to a completely separate person. There's a phrase for that. I'm trying to remember
where you, let's see.
It's using
solicit
wire.
funds using somebody else's name, but then you take all the money. Yeah, that kind of fraud that you commit by wire, Chris. I think
fraud committed by wire, that may be a thing.
Yeah.
On page 17 of this report, you'll find that most troubling committee Democrats have received confidential disclosures that America 250 donors were affirmatively misled by fundraisers, including the president's lead fundraiser, Meredith O'Rourke. According to sources interviewed by committee Democrats, donors who intended to donate to America 250 were instead given wire instructions with Freedom 250's banking information, including a routing number and account number. In the UK, it's the same as giving somebody else's sort code and account number. So basically, the accusation here from the Democrats on the Natural Resources Committee is that not only did you suborn the entire celebration of America's 250th anniversary and try to turn it into a Christian nationalist pro-Trump rally, which they did, by the way. That did happen. That's exactly what happened. But that you may have allegedly committed wire fraud and stealing money from people who thought they were giving it to someone else. And this is a story that's been kind of brewing underneath. We were talking about a couple of weeks ago when all these people pulled out of these events because they thought it was an America 250 event, and it turned out to be a Trump 250 event. And they're like, I want nothing to do with that. And I guess the final thing we'll say about this is that it's terrible.
It really looks bad. It looks
nobody's
so bad,
coming.
Chris.
Like nobody's going.
Like seriously, until yesterday, which was July 4th, and again the 250th anniversary. They finally got some crowds in there
on a Saturday. It was
on
Saturday.
Yeah, but like for the entire rest of the time that this thing has been open, it has been deserted. Like the pictures are ridiculous, and you may be saying, okay, well, I'm sure maybe some pictures are from early in the morning or late at night, when everyone's emptied out. No. These are pictures from like noon. These are pictures from like midday, and you can tell that the administration is freaking out about this because you had people like Dr. Oz speaking from, the massive stage and saying, there are thousands of people here and it's real and it's so crowded and everyone's having a great time. And then the TMZ cameraman who is filming this immediately just sort of, turns around a little 360 to show who's in the audience with them. And it's literally like 5 people.
It's nobody. There was there's a couple musical presentations, because not from anybody famous.
Well, no, they wouldn't do
except for Vanilla Ice. And potentially Millie Vanilli. There was 2 people who were doing some kind of musical thing, and they zoomed in on this person's sunglasses, and there was like 6 people in the audience. And like this is a common time for people to go on vacation. This is perfect vacation time.
Yeah.
Right. But it's kind of like it is an indictment of the entire Trump administration. First off, to try to suborn and take over a bipartisan event, which is supposed to be fun for everybody.
Bring the country together,
And they're like, the first thing we have to do is not bring the country together. The first thing we have to do is make it about Trump, because if it's not about Trump, then why are we even here?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And the fact that it is a massive failure is kind of encouraging for the country, because people don't want to be associated with it. It was really hot. If there was an organized free event like the UFC event, that attracts a very specific kind of person who wants to go see UFC. But this is a very general. It's a state fair.
Yeah.
And his name is all over it. His businesses are all over it.
Right.
And let's not forget that he's made billions this year.
Yeah.
From basically no president's made as much money as he has in office. So there's a lot there.
It's but you know what? At the very least, I will say this: they spent a huge amount of money, and you can absolutely see it in the
stage design.
Well, the stage, there is that bit about how the stage started falling down and almost killed one of the dancers. There's also the mock-up of his Trump arch, the Arc de Trump, that he wants to put up. Yeah, is great. And if you zoom in on some of the pictures, you could see all the building foam that is oozing out the cracks of this. incredibly shoddily put together piece of shit. Like it's and there's a Ferris wheel that doesn't work all the time.
Well, I don't think there's anybody on it. There's
Yeah.
like just to have a Ferris wheel turning with no one on it. I mean,
it's perverse. Like it's like literally being like, how can we make this look like shit?
It's sad.
How can we prove how little regard we have for the United States, for its people, and for its traditions?
Yeah.
You know? But you know, that's Donald Trump all over, isn't it?
That is what he's about.
Yeah.
And so let's leave it there. We're going to take a little break and come back with some quick words about the rest of the world.
Yep. Which does exist, America.
Well, it is still the 4th of July in my mind. So it does kind of exist.
Okay.
All right. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Shall we turn our attention towards the entire rest of the world that isn't the United States, Chris?
I think we can, also including the United States, because we're talking about the World Cup.
Oh my God, that's all of us, Chris.
That's almost all of us. You had to qualify to get into the World Cup. The World Cup.
Okay.
So America, because I'm going to start with America.
Of course.
Fuck
yeah.
Doing surprisingly well.
Yeah.
I don't remember how far they got in the last World Cup, but I do remember that we lost to Belgium. Maybe it was the Netherlands. It may have been the Netherlands. It may have been Belgium in the last World Cup. But a lot of people from over here are saying, "Wow, I'm surprised at how well the U.S. is doing."
Yeah.
Other surprises, though. I mean, come on. Egypt beats Australia on penalties. Germany is out.
Yeah.
Germany lost to. Oh, let me check. Germany lost to Paraguay.
Right.
In penalties as well. Who else? Morocco beat Canada.
Yeah.
England barely just beat the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Cape Verde came very close to tying with Argentina.
Which is like, seriously, Cape Verde has like done itself very, very proud. I gotta say,
they are like, the sweethearts. They are the sweethearts of the tournament right now.
Yeah.
Japan scored first against Brazil. Brazil did win that game.
Yeah, but only by one.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's surprising. Years ago, this would have been, they wouldn't even been in the round of 32, and now we're into the round of 13. And so it's been interesting. I mean, one of the other interesting things is because it's in America, the timings are all off here. So apparently there's like a statutory instrument that has been tabled to allow the pubs to be opened. Late tonight to watch the game until about 5 a.m.
That's good, because the what is it? The England-Mexico game is starting, and it's going to be at 1 o'clock in the morning London time.
Well, it was almost going to be a lot earlier, because there's a storm or something heading towards Mexico, Mexico City. And the team from England was like, "There's no way we can deal with that because there's altitude issues." Right. But seriously, it's like you're playing in a much different environment.
No, fair enough. And to be fair, every time leaves fall on the track in this country, the entire rail network shuts down. So I understand the idea that like, oh, there's a storm coming, England cannot play.
Well, it's both
teams.
Both teams wouldn't be able to play. Both teams wouldn't be able to play. But it is obviously about safety. But we'll I guess we'll have to wait and see if the traditional teams make it to the end. I mean, Germany's already out, but they've been out a couple times in a couple World Cups. They're getting used to not being good. Portugal and Spain are still in. Argentina's still in. Mexico. We'll see if they can. Who wins out of Mexico?
France
England.
is still in. They're up against Paraguay. So like,
Oh no. Paraguay lost.
Oh yeah.
Night, France has won. So France is now playing Morocco in the quarterfinals. And so we'll have to wait and see, because we could have the horrible situation where America has to play Spain or Portugal. Who do you support then? That's where we are with the World Cup. Congratulations to our boys.
And I gotta say, like, I do feel like, in a weird way, all of the energy that should have been going into the semi-quincentennial, in a way, it's still there. It's just going towards the World Cup. I think this World Cup has been really good for the United States, not just in the sense of like America's done better than expected, but also simply because it's been like this nice moment of, Americans connecting with people from all over the world, So you had, teams from Iran playing and whatnot, and, forming connections with, people in the town where they were staying. You've had what was it, the mayor of an American city, I can't remember which one, like basically like, dancing with like the Dutch team and Dutch supporters and whatnot. Like there seems to have been like this real, I don't know,
Yeah,
there's some good vibes out there in America right now,
there are.
and they're just not directed towards the quincentennial. And that's weird because during the bicentennial, it's sort of famous in American lore for having been this moment of like coming together after Nixon's out, right? Like sort of resetting the country in a way. And I don't know, it says something about Donald Trump that he had this incredible moment that he could have used to benefit the United States and thereby benefited himself, and he just completely fucked it up.
It's not even, but it's part of it. It's clearly part of their plan. You don't
Yeah.
want to welcome immigrants into your country after that. The main pillar of your platform is.
Yep.
I used to work with a guy who used to call soccer third world kickball,
That's
and
wow.
letting you know exactly where he still is today,
Yep.
politically.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Mhm.
it's a game played by millions
Yeah.
around the world, and like we have things like
Yeah.
the World Series of baseball, and you win the World Championship of basketball and football. But like at least with baseball, you play Canada, right? And
Yeah.
also with basketball, you play Canada. You don't play any other non-American teams in football.
Yeah.
So it is really really good. It's really really good that we have like sold out stadiums.
Yep.
It's also very smart for us to have bid with Canada and Canada and Mexico.
Yeah.
Last night, because I went to Texas Joe's
Mhm.
for 4th of July.
Check them out. Try the brisket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for ribs and chicken and everything else that's good there.
Mhm.
We and the lady sat next to us, and she's just like, "Why were they playing a football in Mexico City or in Canada?" I'm all like, "That's because Canada, United States,
Yeah.
and Mexico had a joint bid." They're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, because it was before Trump,
Yeah.
so we had
Yeah,
and
fair.
and it makes sense, and I think it's working out well for I think it's working out well for all the countries, but I
Mhm.
think that it is helping America's image in a way that Trump is consistently hurting it. All the Europeans are coming over to America, and they're like, "Oh my God, the food's so good." I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
because we have all these chemicals in it. It's great." But like, not if you're getting barbecue, but you know what
Yeah,
I mean. Like,
don't expect much from American vegetables. Like,
Yeah, well,
that's not where America shines.
no, you're not going to get the same quality of vegetables, but you're going to get tastier food, meat. You're going to get like salt in your food
That's
and
true.
flavor and
That's true.
seasonings.
Yeah.
You're going to have barbecue that's going to taste good. That's why all these barbecue people are coming over here to the UK and to
Mhm.
Europe, because we're bringing over some stuff from
Yeah.
America, which all of our food cultures from the rest of the world anyway. So we've just conglomerated it, put it into a package, and now we're sending it back to everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's enough opining about sports ball.
Yes. Yes.
Let's talk about the United Kingdom.
Let's do it.
There hasn't been much. The United Kingdom's kind of in a holding pattern politically, until the almost end of the month. So basically, we have a week and a half. So, for those of you who are unaware, Keir Starmer is resigning, and the Labour Party is starting its leadership contest on the 9th of July, which is the end of this week.
It's very nice of you to call it a contest, Chris.
I am still calling it a contest because everybody's already done like Andy Burnham's going to be the guy, and most likely he will be.
Mhm.
But there could always be a ruiner secretly sitting in there to screw over everybody, because that's the nature of politics.
I suppose that's true.
And that nomination process, I think, goes until the middle of the following week. So it won't be until I think the following Friday when we'll know if anybody has stood against Andy Burnham.
Right.
And if it's at that point that no one stood against him, then Andy Burnham will become the leader of the Labour Party and the presumptive Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Okay.
But it's actually kind of snarky, because he will never get a Prime Minister's questions if the nominations end on the last Friday. I think it's the 19th. Let me just check here real quick.
All right.
Hit the right button. There it is. If the nominations end on the 17th of July, or the 16th of July, Andy Burnham won't be in front of the dispatch box until September as Prime Minister.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's a very, so we'll see what happens, and everyone's just kind of waiting and kind of speculating. And Andy Burnham did go on to LBC with Andrew Marr as his first public interview as like a presumptive prime minister. Now, he would never claim to be one himself, But he did go on Andrew Marr, which I thought was an interesting choice because Andrew Marr is not known as a big lefty at all.
Where would you position Andy Marr out of curiosity?
Andrew Marr, definitely right wing.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to put him on papers, I'd put him at the Times as opposed to the Telegraph.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So, all right.
He's somebody that I wouldn't be upset with, but I know that he's not going to agree. Welfare is still a problem. Okay. So that means we're kind of struggling to think about what to talk about politically here. And then, of course, the gift that keeps on giving, literally, Nigel Farage.
Ah, yes, and specifically gifts to Nigel Farage. Like
again,
so, for those of you who are wondering what we're referring to, of course, we're talking about the what was it, £5 million gift that was given to old Nige.
£5 million gift was given to him by Christopher Harborn from the past. Now there's been other things that have come up.
More gifts?
It's not just more gifts. He's been making tons of money hawking bullion, making about 12. He's been making hundreds of thousands of pounds kind of selling gold bullion through almost what Trump does, which is with Trump coins and Trump steaks or whatever. So he's lending his face to things like that. But the most recent serious accusation is that he was getting funding and support from a convicted criminal.
Now, that's interesting.
Yeah, who is named as George Cottrell or Cotrell.
Okay.
And he is also known as Posh George.
That's awesome. Like Paulie Walnuts. I love the fact that he's got a crime name.
And so basically this guy, who was very much part of the aristocracy here in the UK, effectively was supporting Farage's campaign, supporting him in his run up to be a member of Parliament, including paying for 3 of his staff to do social media work, paying for security, paying for accommodation, letting Farage stay at his house, stay at Cottrell's rented flat. But the issue is that this guy, who has been with Farage since the UKIP days, he was with him in the Brexit referendum days, traveled with Farage to meet Trump during the 2016 election, and then went to Chicago and got arrested because he was trading under an assumed name and got done for fraud.
Oh, wow. So that's great. So he's okay. He's been arrested. Was he convicted of the fraud, Chris?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is the guy that Nigel Farage has been getting apparently quite a bit of money from. Now, my understanding, and I don't work in Parliament.
Sure.
Unlike some people. So
he's talking about me.
Yeah. So, my understanding of the rules here may be somewhat wrong. And I want to run a few questions past you. So if you are a politician and you're intending to run for Parliament, right? Can people just sort of give you lots of money and then you don't have to tell anyone and it's totally kosher?
Yes.
Really?
It depends. So if it's a personal gift, right? Like if you get a gift from your child or from a partner or something,
get a birthday gift,
or whatever, Christmas, you don't have to declare every single gift that you're given because like Granny has given you a pair of socks. That's fine. But if the CEO of Virgin decides to give you £12 million, it comes into this thing where there's a reasonableness test in Parliament, in public life, because all members of Parliament, all members who work in the legislature, almost anybody who works in public life has to go into these 7 principles of public life. And one of them, effectively, we call it the sniff test, or we call it the Daily Mail test. What would it look like on the cover, on the front page of the Daily Mail? But it's a reasonableness test. Would a reasonable person believe what you've just said? And that's I find that to be a bit dangerous because reasonable people don't always have reasonable views. Because there are a lot of people out there who don't think MPs should be paid at all. There's a lot of people who and it's very nebulous. But if you were to say something like, I got £5 million from this crypto guy, and then I immediately changed my position on crypto. Ruh-roh.
Would a reasonable person be like, oh, I'm sure that A has nothing to do with B in that case? Or would a reasonable person be like, oh, hang on a minute?
Yeah. And so you have to, and also in the run up to an election, you have to declare a lot of stuff that you did in the 12 months before you became that member, obviously, because in that 12 months, you were trying to be a member of Parliament. And so you have to declare what they did. And it seems that Farage failed to disclose this guy was a convicted felon in the United States.
That's interesting.
Ruh-roh.
Wait, so okay, did he then like report the gifts that he was being given by this criminal? and just failed to report that the dude who gave him the gifts was a criminal? Or did he just not report the fact that someone was, paying his staff to do social media for him and paying for his security and all that kind
It
of thing?
doesn't seem like he's reported it because it's all coming out in the paper.
Mm,
And so somebody will eventually have to go to go to Parliament and say, who he's already investigation in Parliament already for the £5 million.
right.
Is this also an issue? Because he wasn't a member of Parliament at the time, but it is
Mhm.
in the run up to being a member of Parliament, which definitely matters.
I mean, if you know someone is planning on running for parliament and you want to, corruptly influence them by giving them a bunch of money, not that I'm saying that that's what happened with Nigel Farage, but if you did, it would seem like a real opportunity then if, that person did not report any of that gift giving, to do exactly that.
Well, he
So I could see why you're saying that this does not pass a sniff test.
Well, he did declare one benefit
Okay.
from the guy for about £9,200, but
All
he
right.
hasn't declared anything else. And the and this person who is also this Cottrell person was
Mhm.
also apparently connected with the Harborn guy who again because they're both into crypto
Of
because
course. Right.
this is all
Of
very
course
much
it's
connected to
crypto.
crypto.
Of course it's
And
all
so
crypto.
yeah, so Farage is in some kind of serious trouble here because if it turns out that he has failed to disclose any of this stuff,
Mhm.
then he'll have to go probably before standards.
Okay.
And standards is the only committee that can compel a member of parliament to attend. Members
Oh,
of parliament
wow.
are both the House of Lords and the House of
Mhm.
Commons are exempt from being compelled to attend any committee. So if you are the prime
Hmm.
minister and the liaison committee, basically their job is to oversee the prime minister,
Right.
and the prime minister says, "I don't want to come," you have to then get the House of Commons to agree to compel the prime minister to come, which is incredibly difficult. But the
Okay.
committee itself doesn't have that power.
Right.
So, but
Parliament itself does, but not the individual
yeah,
committees.
but so
Okay.
you have to compel a majority to tell their person to go to the committee. The
Right.
only one where this is exempt is standards and privileges, which are two separate committees with the same people on them, same
Mhm.
members, just slightly different lay
They have.
members.
It's a matter of hats, Chris.
It is a matter of facts, but it's the same. It is the same chair,
Yeah.
and it's the same members.
Mhm.
And they can recommend to the House any number of things, including suspension. And if you are suspended for, I believe, about 10 days,
Mhm.
that could trigger a recall petition. And so there are some
Oh,
notes,
wow.
people who are like, does Nigel Farage really want to stand again? Because in the polls,
Have to run in a by-election,
he would
basically.
have to, well, yeah, he would have to run in a by-election.
Yeah.
And over the past few weeks,
Mhm.
the Labor Party have gotten a bounce, and over the past few months, Reform have started to fall massively. So they were in
Mm.
the low 30s to high 20s. Now they're polling today at 26% on the most recent Ipsos poll,
Yeah.
and Labor is on 24%, up 4% from the last one. The Conservative Party is on 18%, and the Green Party is in fourth place on 13,
Mhm.
and Lib Dems are on 11. And
So if
obviously the
you're
SNP and Plaid are in Wales, so those are, I mean, Wales and Scotland, so those are different kind of
exactly right,
systems.
you don't want to look at like the national picture to see how
But
they're doing,
but
right?
even Restored Britain's on 3%.
Mhm.
So we're talking about some massive changes for Labor, but they're still not in a position where they could theoretically get a majority government, and
Mhm.
Reform really falling
Yeah.
fast. And now you have the leader of that party who's taken all sorts of crazy money,
Mhm.
barely if ever in the constituency, never in the House of Commons, never takes
Mhm.
questions. And I mean, for now, the stream of defections have stopped.
Mhm.
It's a totally different world for him.
Yeah, I guess that's a really good point. So I wonder how much of this then sort of comes down to, and I mean, I don't want to over egg the pudding on this, basically, but like, it is true that Andy Burnham won his seat, and he won it with a majority,
Yeah,
and no
that's
one
why
was
he's there.
expecting it. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. And he beat Reform by like 20 points. So if this is sort of like, the bounce for Labor, the slow like deflation of the vote for Reform, all of this seems to it's putting forward a narrative that basically says that, you know, a government under Andy Burnham may have a chance, at least at the beginning, to try to right the ship, to try to, set a new narrative, set a new course, and move in a direction that the British people are more happy with. if you're Nigel Farage, you don't want this to be the narrative. You don't want this to be the case. Like, and obviously, anybody who gets power is going to eventually piss off enough people. All political careers end in failure, as they say, and for a good reason. But if you're Nigel Farage, this is not where you want things to be right now, and you want to be able to change the narrative quickly. And I don't know how you do that if you're him.
Well, the thing is that it's the same problem that Burnham will have. Is that Farage was seen as a regular guy, even though he never was, who you can just go out and get a pint with, smoke a cigarette, have some real man chat, real man banter, and he's gonna do what's needed to fix the country. He's not like the rest of them. He won't take any random money. He's not gonna be corrupt. He's not like the rest of them. He is a pure paragon of a British man. Oh wait, here's all this crazy money he didn't declare. Here's all these people that he's associated with. Like. The only saving grace is that he's not in the Epstein files.
Yeah.
I take a slightly, not even because of who I work for, I take a slightly different approach to Labor and Burnham. He did win in Makerfield. I think that he's got a tightrope to walk, and the numbers of Labor right now. I mean, if we'll see how the Burnham bounce works. If he becomes prime minister in the next few weeks, and in October, I think we need to see where the polls are.
I think that's exactly
and then.
Right.
If the polls are in the 40s for Labor and the 30s for Labor, obviously,
that's a whole new world.
And if I was Burnham, you'd call an election immediately because, oh my God, we're so popular.
Exactly.
But it's going to be very difficult for him to make everyone happy all the time. It's not possible. And the bounce that you've seen right now, the 4% bounce from where Labor was down into the pits, it's only 24%.
Yep.
So even a 10% bounce is into the 30s, mid 30s, where they kind of were at the last election.
Yeah.
So the amount of work he has to do, and of course he'll be the government and not the leader of the opposition, so it'll be tangible things he has to accomplish.
That's right.
That's gonna be hard, and I think a lot of people they gave their hope to Labor, and now they're looking for a change. And as what the Democrats are finding in America, people don't like the Democrats, but they like the people running under their banner. So they don't like the Democrats, but they like Mamdani. They don't like the Democrats, but they'll support the people Mamdani supports. They don't like the Democrats, but they will vote for either Democratic Socialists or other people like that. So we'll have to see how Labor adjusts or just believes that everything's back to normal. And then if they think that, oh boy.
I would say that this is not the time for complacency on the part of the Labor Party.
Please, Labor, please be complacent. That's my official guidance to the Labor Party. Complacency is king.
And here we have, I'm sure what is the official line of the Scottish National Party. So
the Labor complacency in all things always. But I think that's it. Do you have, unless you have anything else you want to say?
No, I think we've covered things pretty well. And so, yeah, I mean, did we talk about America enough, Chris?
I don't think so, but we have next week. Actually, we will sort out next week.
America will still be here. Well maybe, probably. It'll probably still be here next week.
On that bombshell, I think we'll call it there because, as always, I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armshaw.
And we are doctors.
Not doctors.
Good night. I was recording it then.
What?